Great day, amazing humans. Yes, welcome to Empowering Bytes. This is where we keep it short and sweet. But who is the we? Well, the we is me, Nkechi, and
I'm Gaby with 1B. Pleased to be the co-host of these Empowering Bytes where we keep it short and sweet.
E to the A to the B to the what? Mamone! That is Gaby 1B Mamone. Let's go, girl. Let the show begin. Great day, amazing humans. Yes, welcome to the next episode of Empowering Bytes. And wow, so if you've been watching this transparency is the only type of transparency is full. So transparently, then you're like, these girls are wearing the same outfit. But that's because we batch. And so this is our final episode in these outfits. And so let me introduce who's here on the, I don't know what side she is, but on my side, she's on this side. It's my girl. It's the G to the A to the B. Briella Mamone.
Very good. Very good. I love it. Thank you for the lovely introduction as always. All right. So for those that know me well, there is something that I love to do when I have some spare time. And that is fulfill my addiction. And the addiction is research the human brain.
Okay.
I love learning about the brain and the parts of the brain and how it affects our thinking and what happens if we have lesions and all the things about the brain. I'm not a neuroscientist. I'm not a doctor. I'm not any of those things, but I really do have a keen interest. And so one of the things that we study in the community that I belong with is the importance of thinking from the place of your goal. So that's what we would love to chat about today is the importance of, yes, having the goal, but sometimes people just dream or they write out their SMART goals and they, make it measurable and smart and all the things. But there's an art, there's a neuroscience, there are principles in how to manifest your goals and how to bring it from your subconscious mind into reality. And that's basically taking from the place of your goal. So I want to chat a little bit about that. Do you want to open it up with your thoughts before we go deeper, Ink?
Oh gosh. Well, you're the expert because you work with the queen of this. I was just saying that after attending after one, interviewing her on this podcast, then two, attending two of her events, and obviously also listening to her on socials. One of the things that really resonates with me that I find I constantly hear in my, either in sort of the habits I'm doing, or if I'm about to give up on doing something, I'm like, no, Ink, in the place of if you think from the place of the goal, you need to do this, you know what I mean? Or it encouraging me to actually do some stuff. And so I mentioned it to Gaby. I said, I think it's really, really great. I think it's a great way to start to see things unfolding and suddenly showing up in your life that you didn't even know were possible. A lot of times, one of the things I've learned, even this was not a Hinacon, this was before, is you got to pray to God about what you want. The how is none of your business. It's absolutely none of your business. And so the only thing you need to do is operate from the place of that goal. So, and that naturally, I think organically starts to expose the how. Yeah,
I love that. So let's talk about the neuroscience part of the actual brain. So it's understood, and forgive me if I'm butchering these numbers a little bit, but I feel like our brain takes so much information per second. Some crazy numbers like 10 million to 300 or 400 billion bits per second. And so what it means is you're constantly filling your brain with all this information in a very, very short period of time, right? How do you retain the important parts? The parts where it's about your goal and what you want to manifest. And how you actually do that is thinking from the place of your goal. And so I'm just actually looking something up. Here we go. I had a note on this. So basically, It's the idea where thoughts become things. Okay. So sometimes that notion is actually misunderstood because there actually is a science behind how a goal will automatically put your brain to work in achieving that goal by simply being that person with the goal. So for example, if your goal is to be a CEO, I'm just picking something out. Okay. So what does that CEO eat? What do they wear? What do they drive? Well, how do they live? Who's in their circle of friends? What time do they wake up? What's their routine? When you think about that person from the place of your goal, implement what you can now. So someone might say, okay, someone in the place of the goal might have a housekeeper daily, as an example. Okay, maybe financially or for other reasons, we're not able to do that now. But how about once a month? And so what you're doing is you're implementing some strategies today that are going to come to fruition in the future because you're thinking from the place of your goal. You're thinking from the place of your goal. So what's coming up for you as I'm
No, because I know that some of that like is manifested in my life. Like I remember one of the things I learned a long time ago. I think the very first time I was ever videographed was at TD, and I did my own makeup. And I remember I had a burn somewhere here, like a curling iron burn, which by the way, I got another one recently and I haven't had one in years because I wear wigs. Why am I curling? Why am I getting burns? Anyway, I digress. So I had this burn and I'm not a makeup artist. I didn't cover it well. And then the next thing you know, that video was like, I didn't even give thought to any of that. That video was played at the banks. It was like, it was perpetuity, right? I was like, oh my God, all I needed to do was get my makeup done. And from that day on, I always got my makeup done. And then when I started to think about like becoming a public speaker, a global speaker, and I started to think about like the women out there or even the men out there that are like on these stages, I just was like, okay, no, I'm going to start to do the things that like a paid speaker would do. You know what I mean? Like, take an Uber, like get chauffeured to the venue, get your makeup done, buy a new outfit every single time you're on stage, that kind of stuff. And I just started to incorporate that. And then all of a sudden I'm this paid speaker. I mean, this year seems to be gala year. Like how many gala dresses? Like I have to start to figure out, maybe I need to rent them now. But it's just because I always have this unique idea for, so anyway, so I digress, but so I created that, and so, I agree with that just because I looked at what would like global speakers do, or people are hosting these, they would get their makeup done. They would get an outfit made. It's not gonna be an outfit they're going to wear again, maybe perhaps, but I don't have that money. So I'm going to be wearing outfits more than once, but I digress.
I know someone that rents gowns, by the way. Let me know if you want me to put
I mean, there's Fitzroy Rentals and all
that's exactly what. Amazing. So what happens is sometimes people take a look at their present results, okay? And then they get emotionally involved with the present results. But if your current factors are where your energy is, then it's hard to improve, right? Whereas if you put your energy on what you want to improve and being and thinking from the place of your goal, then you get to use your will to focus on that. And that's the science behind it.
I think in that regard, I think the thing that really took for me is that's how you really, truly take inspired action.
Yes.
Like the actions that you take don't feel tired and monotonous and labored. They actually feel energized and motivating and inspiring.
Yes.
And
Right. And sometimes people say, like, it's easy for us to say, oh, I tried that, or I've been on every diet, or I've done all the things and da-da. But those are very, very general statements as well, right? And so when you can actually think about what you want rather than your current results, you're actually creating new results because you're taking you're creating a creative process where you're like creating an image and you're creating a reaction. And then you're taking action on that reaction. And that's how you form it into the reality.
You've clearly studied the brain way more than I have, because you geek about it.
Oh, I love it.
What I locked in as part of my personal journey years ago is like, so I locked into it this way when it was about trauma. And I think it was actually, I know in one of our episodes, we talked about the untethered soul. It was either in the untethered soul or the power of now. But essentially the concept was that your brain, your body also doesn't know the difference between trauma caused by death and trauma caused by a long lineup at a Tim Hortons coffee shop, right? Yeah. So far as it either makes you angry or sad or frustrated, it doesn't know the difference. And so it's about like conditioning yourself to meter your trauma, like the things that cause trauma or whatever. I think that's almost like what I just took from what you said. So if you can train your brain to start to think about the goal that you like, that the actions that you're doing are because you're in the goal.
Yes.
That you've achieved the goal. Then you will start to achieve the goal.
Yes, that's exactly it. And sometimes people they stay in this paradigm, or they stay in old patterns, right? But the only way to break that pattern is to raise your conscious level of awareness. So how do you do that? You got to get out of this flight mode. What is it? Fight or flight mode.
I think the word that comes to me, Gabby, is consistency.
Yes, that's exactly it, right? It's consistency. It's not conforming, but rather having this desire with action. But don't just think about the desire. Take action on that.
Take some type of action,
of action, because that creates discipline, that creates habits, that creates you putting it from your mind into its real form. It really makes a big difference when you're taking a look at the levels of awareness.
And I think you can also apply it even to something like, so one of the things I loved when I first took on this new career role, the role I'm paid for, was I learned to focus on becoming versus the doing.
I love it.
Because if you focus on the doing, then you can freak out because you don't know what to do. But if you focus on who you want to become, so I want to become this really exceptional, like whatever it is, blah, 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 in my field and like write that becoming statement. And then the doing will organically happen the more you focus on what are the things that that I would need to do in order to become that. And then you start to adopt those. I think, that's very aligned with what we're saying. So the other day, but sometimes it doesn't have to be always at that, like sort of that North Star, right? So the other day I was in my car because I have a North Star for like what I want to become as it relates to my corporate life.
I love it.
But I was in my car and there was something that I needed to do that I got a text, a message from my boss. And right away, I was like, I don't know how to do this. And so I was like, okay, well, don't focus on the doing, focus on, remember who you want to become. And I was like, I've got that, So then I just said, what's the next logical, almost inspired action that you could take? And I remember picking up the phone. There's a girlfriend. We haven't spoken in ages, but she's a freaking G in this space. And I called her up and I said, dude, I just need the next step. Like not the whole plan, just the next step. This is where I'm at. What's the next logical thing I can actually sit at my desk and do today? You know?
I love it.
And so, and some of that made it available because I'm great at networking. I have great relationships. You kind of leave people wanting to like hang with you again and help you out. Like it was early morning. I was just driving in my car and I said, rather than freak out or start to fill my mind with like, how am I going to tackle this? I just said, no, you take an action that moves you one step closer to that goal.
I love it so much. And the thing is that make it like prevalent, write it out, journal, tell people, put it on stickies, constantly talk about it, right? Because again, your awareness level will increase with all of that language and those efforts. And then with each new level of awareness that you're getting because of journaling and talking about it and everything like that, your circumstances will change. Your environment will adapt. You'll be able to start adapting to the changes. Again, they're very small sometimes, but that's how you can actually see the next step. Because let me share a quick story. I went to Arizona last year and oh my gosh, this was fascinating. We were on the top of a mountain and looking up in the sky, we saw just little stars, little tiny stars in the distance. It was so beautiful. But there was this telescope, and this was like the telescope of all telescopes. Like I'm talking Big Daddy telescope, let me tell you. Okay. So I look in this telescope. I kid you not, I saw Jupiter, I saw Saturn, and I was like, come on. But with my naked eye, I couldn't see any of it. Why? Because I didn't have the tools. I didn't have the tools. The telescope was my tool. But if you relate that analogy into real life, the tool is your brain. You just have to believe it's there. And every time you raise your level of awareness, you're getting closer to that goal, and you're actually creating it. The late Bob Proctor, sorry, I can just go on and on about this.
Good.
Wrap up soon. This is why they call me Gaby. I just gab and gab and gab. Okay. The late Bob Proctor says, in life, we either create or we sorry, I didn't say that right. Disintegrate. In life, we either create or we disintegrate. And my understanding of that quote from the late Bob Proctor is basically your higher self is calling you now. And something's nagging at you, maybe an old habit, maybe a paradigm, maybe a spouse saying you can't do it, whatever it is. But the reality is you can stay the same, but then your goal is still out there without the telescope. But the moment that you put it into reality, the tools are there and it will start to come to fruition.
I love that. That's a good way to end. Good way to end. Great wisdom, girl. Great wisdom.
That was fun.
I love it. Everybody, this is it. Operate from the place of the goal, but it actually requires you creating that goal. So this is where we say we're out. No, that's not true.
You can introduce yourself again.
I know. Maybe it's this YouTube thing. Y'all on YouTube have me freaking out. No, this is where, unfortunately, this is where we have to say bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode.